Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. After years of neglecting our state's infrastructure and our state assets, when I became governor, one of my top priorities was to put that behind us and to address the massive backlog of repairs and renovations needed around the state. It's important to me to finally put the local needs of Illinois communities front and center. Leaders here in the city of Springfield made it clear our capital city deserves reinvestment in better roads, in better facilities, in a rejuvenated downtown. Right here, in full view of everyone who visits and works in our state capitol building, just steps away, lies the iconic Illinois State Armory. It's a building that has for years now stood empty and decrepit, a stark reminder of the past failures of state government. But it's a place that should be one of Springfield's crown jewels. The Armory is nearly 100 years old, and it is full of history. It has played host to John F. Kennedy, Richard Nixon, Harry Truman, Muhammad Ali, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In its heyday, legendary bands like AC/DC and Cheap Trick played there. For decades, it was a community hub for Springfield, but then the Armory was left unmaintained for years, becoming a drain on taxpayer dollars, laying mostly empty and a drag on the revitalization of downtown Springfield. That's why the General Assembly and I decided to invest $122 million of our historic bipartisan capital plan in rejuvenating this building, so it can once again be a cornerstone of the Springfield State Capitol complex. Over the next 3 years, construction teams will once again turn this facility into nearly 200,000 square feet of beautiful, useful space that balances the building's historic nature with modern upgrades, like LEED Silver certification. We're making room for state employees to make a professional home of this state-owned building, but the renovation will bring new life also to the streets and shops of downtown Springfield. I want to recognize the local leaders who advocated for this project, including then Alderwoman, now State Senator Doris Turner, Leader Tim Butler, Mayor Jim Langfelder, Sangamon County Chair Andy Van Meter, Alderwoman Lakeisha Purchase, and Land of Lincoln Community Foundation President and CEO John Stremsterfer. I will get that right every time. Stremsterfer. I know how important this project is to revitalize and reimagine downtown, and I'm proud that the state can deliver for Springfield residents. It's no secret that the pandemic has reshaped so many aspects of our state and our nation over the last 2 years, but we have seen one of the most dramatic economic recoveries in our history, and there's no better time than now to invest in the strongest possible future for our capital city. The renovations here at the Illinois State Armory represent just that, fuel for growth in this city and this region for years to come. And we've got so much more in store for Springfield. Since I signed into law this Rebuild Illinois law 2.5 years ago, that capital plan has repaired or replaced over 3,500 miles and nearly 350 bridges statewide, including reconstructing and expanding a portion of I-55 in Springfield. We're building the new Library Learning and Student Success Center at University of Illinois Springfield. We're expanding the Springfield and Central Illinois African American Museum. We're renovating the SIU School of Medicine, which will attract an even greater number of promising students to launch their healthcare careers right here. All in all, Rebuild Illinois is dedicating nearly $500 million to the roads and bridges of Sangamon County, as well as making major investments in public transportation, like the 10th Street Corridor high-speed rail and multimodal transit center projects. And of course, we're finally addressing long-standing needs at state facilities, like the fairgrounds and like the state capitol, investing in the vitality of our state capitol that will make the region even more attractive for families and businesses. This work is possible because partners and advocates in the General Assembly on both sides of the aisle worked together to put Illinois communities first. And for the last 2.5 years, since Rebuild Illinois became law, we've worked together to stay true to that mission every step of the way. So with that, I'd like to turn things over to a major voice for this project, for Springfield and for the entire region, and that's Senator Doris Turner. Senator?
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. No one can imagine how excited I am to be here this morning for this announcement. I often say that Springfield is not just a place that I have represented on the Sangamon County Board, the Springfield City Council, and now in the Illinois State Senate. It's my hometown. It's where I have raised my family and now watching my grandchildren grow and thrive. So today is extremely exciting for me. I have attended so many events in the Armory. I know a lot of the people that the governor mentioned having come through there. I went to those events. I remember going to see Muhammad Ali with my dad. I remember going to the circuses and things that were there. And then as a teenager, going to the city tournaments and the basketball games. I'm not going to tell you how much of the basketball game I watched and how much I just like running around talking to my friends, but just so many memories from childhood to high school. And you know, it's even more important that I'm standing here today with Governor Pritzker because he has really proven himself to be a visionary who has a vision for our state that includes all of Illinois, someone who is willing to listen to my thoughts and my visions for my hometown and then to move them into reality. I remember standing right behind Governor Pritzker when he signed that Rebuild Illinois bill and talking with him about what that would mean for Springfield, for my hometown. And now, as I see all of these things that are happening, he was really true to his word when he talked about what that bill would mean for us. And that's why I'm so pleased that we have a governor that understands the importance of community and what this project means for revitalizing Springfield's downtown and leveraging state resources to accomplish what many thought was impossible. So this is truly an investment in human capital, not just the brick and mortar that you're going to see. This is really going to be transformational for a lot of people's everyday lives. So I am pleased to see the significant investment in such a prominent feature of the Springfield cityscape and really looking forward to the completion of the project to bring one of Springfield's great buildings back to its former glory. And with that, I would like to introduce my colleague in the House, Representative Butler.
Thank you, Senator Turner, and good morning, everyone. And thank you, Governor, for the opportunity to share a few words today. And Mayor and Chair Van Meter, this shows you the support that projects like this have from the local level all the way up to the federal level, honestly, here in Springfield. This project here, the Armory renovation, is one of the major reasons I helped negotiate and vote for the Capitol bill. The investment going into a building that all of us get asked about all the time is one of the reasons that I voted for it. We want to renovate that building. It's a beautiful, historic building. And the governor did a great job of outlaying many of the things that happened in there. There's a couple that he missed. I've had so many people tell me that they attended the KISS concert over there that I can't even count. And I played Sunday morning pickup basketball in there for several years as well. And I had the opportunity to tour the Armory a few years ago after it had been shut down. And it reminded me of the final scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark where they're rolling the Ark into that big warehouse. That's kind of what it looked like in there. And to have this building renovated with over 600 jobs that are going to be located in the office space there, to continue to have the hub downtown here for a vital downtown is really important. But the bigger thing today is the investment that's going on in Springfield. As the governor said, over $500 million, capital renovation, 10th Street Rail project, renovations going on at the state police building, the new EPA building out on the west side of town, the new Do It building on the east side of town. The state is investing in our capital city like we've never invested before, honestly. And it's a great thing to say, great thing to see. And that's why we stand here as champions of the capital city, because we believe in investing in Springfield and making sure that we take care of the resources that we have, like the State Armory building. So thank you, Governor, for the opportunity to be here today and to tout the good successes of the bipartisan Rebuild Illinois plan that we put together a few years ago. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to John Stremsterfer, the head of the Land of Lincoln Community Foundation.
Thank you, Leader Butler. There'll be a quiz on my last name. Like so many people who were born and raised in Springfield, I have fond memories of the Armory. Not as notable as KISS, but I used to play volleyball in the Armory, not basketball. My father would always talk about seeing Chuck Berry at the Armory. So people that are local Springfield people know it's a state-run facility, but it's very much our own here locally. It's where we go to basketball tournaments, go to wonderful entertainment events, and sometimes try and hit a volleyball over the net. In October of 2020, the Community Foundation for the Land of Lincoln launched a project known as the Next 10. It was really in the height of the pandemic, but we saw that as an opportunity to kind of seize the moment and look to a future post-pandemic, and we're hoping that that time is coming, or if it hasn't come already. And when we decided to launch this, we wanted community input for what Springfieldians, people in this region, wanted to see for a better community. And it was kind of hard to do during a pandemic when we had to be away from one another. So we chose to do things outdoors, to promote the concept, to get ideas on a website for people to envision what the future could look like for this region. So we did outdoor events so we could come together in a way. And we chose the Armory as the first event in October of 2020 to launch that project because we thought it symbolized a way that we could rally what once was here in Springfield to get pride back in the capital city as a capital city. And we had great comments from the public on what could happen with the Armory. So it is such an exciting day for me today, and I think so many people locally here in Springfield to hear this announcement. And of all the good news that the governor and Leader Butler, Senator Turner have shared on what the state is doing for the capital city. When I was a young man, one of my first jobs was as a committee clerk, I think in 1995 in the House of Representatives here. And it's something when you're a local Springfield person, you walk in the door of the Capitol, it feels often like you're a million miles away from the local city. I think there's been a void there. But I think represented by the mayor, Chairman Van Meter, Alderwoman Purchase, I see it here, both parties involved, multiple layers of government. I am excited for the future. I think the Next 10 project, if just we have the Armory rehabilitated, it'll be a success. So I'm excited for this new day here in the capital city, and I want to say thanks again to all the elected officials who are up there for supporting what was really a community grassroots project in the Next 10. And with that, I'd like to invite the governor back up.
Thank you. Before I take questions, I want to address the budget plan that was presented by House Democrats last night. My early observation is that House Democrats took a comprehensive approach and adhered to my goals of achieving a fiscally responsible, balanced budget and delivering tax relief to families that need it most. My team and I are still in the process of reviewing the details of their legislation, but I'm certainly pleased to see more ideas in the mix to cut taxes and give working families a break. I also want to commend them for including a responsible expansion of the earned income credit, which is something that I've supported for quite some time. During my tenure as governor, I've worked to support local governments and have delivered more than $1 billion more to them so far. In this latest House budget proposal, I want to ensure that what's being provided to local governments continues to be affordable within a balanced budget framework. I look forward to working with legislators to provide relief to working families while continuing to strengthen our state's fiscal foundation. It's particularly important to put away money in the rainy day fund, maintain a responsible bill payment cycle, and make an extra payment into our pension systems. My partners in the State House and I are having productive conversations about how to ensure that relief prioritizes those who need it most. Putting working families first has been a hallmark of my time in office, and I have full confidence in our ability to further that mission in these final days of the legislative session. So I want to thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions from.
Harrison, about to end fiscal year 22 with a budget surplus in the black for the first time in 25 years. Isn't that a confession that your first two budgets were not in fact balanced when the year was up?
No, we balanced the first 2 years' budgets, and as you know, the third year, which is the one that we're in now, is one in which we've seen a significant increase in revenues, unexpected, and that's been tremendously helpful. And we've been very careful about taking those surpluses and paying down debts, making sure that we're putting away money for the future of the state and taking care of the problems that were left behind from the previous governor and from decades, frankly, of mismanagement.
Governor,
Yes, sir.
If I remember correctly, the Springfield natives might know Van Halen trashed the place. Didn't they get arrested? So maybe they could contribute to them.
I think Leader Butler was there, so.
The mayor might have sang on stage that night.
How much will it cost? Who's going to go back in there? Who's going to go in there? Does the state police go back in there? What's going to happen with the gymnasium part of it? I don't know that you can make
I can't speak to the interior plan. I can tell you that officers are being put in. There are about 600 employees, state employees, who will go into it. About $122 million is being invested in this renovation. So if that helps. I don't know yet who the state employees are that are going to be put into the Armory, but I'm excited that we're going to have a lot of people in a building so close to the Capitol. Yeah.
Was your office involved in negotiating the nursing home payment reform, and are you happy with the package that you continue to settle on?
Our Department of Healthcare and Family Services, and of course my Deputy Governor for Health and Human Services, involved in talking to the various stakeholders and making sure that, as you know, we introduced a plan back last summer, HFS did, and worked with those stakeholders. It kind of fell apart in the mid-fall. And then there was a lot of wrangling that started up back in January, because I'm committed to making sure that we're protecting our seniors, protecting particularly those who are nursing home residents, and those who are people of color who often are in nursing homes that are underserved, that don't have the kind of staffing that they ought to have. Anybody that's in one of those nursing homes deserves better, and that's what we've been fighting for.
Governor, as part of the review of the budget proposal from last night, the tax relief plan, what is it that you're going to look at going forward? Like, what are your goals as part of this review? Like, specifically, what are you looking for that remains in the House proposal that you would like to see?
Well, let me start with the most important thing, and you've heard me say this over and over again over the last 3 years. We have to balance the budget. We have to pay down debts wherever we can. There's been a lot of challenges that have faced the state and its fiscal condition, and we have an opportunity now to keep doing the right thing, and indeed more so. So that's been my, overarching principle with regard to the budget. Obviously, we want to make sure that the investments that are getting made within a budget are focused on working families, people who need support from our state government. That often has been neglected in the past. I'm talking about over decades. Those are, the broad, important principles that I'm working with. And then, of course, in individual programs, I'm the one who proposed tax relief for families across the state. I think that now that we've seen some proposals for even more, and when I put my proposal forward, it was early February. There was not a Russo-Ukrainian war going on. Gas prices still were in the $3 range. Now they're in the $4.50 range. And so, we want to make sure that we're adding to our relief, whatever we're doing, to help people pay those higher prices.
Governor, the Armory's state-owned. Just last night, Mayor Linfelder was talking about some other things to focus on downtown investment from the state, maybe the medical district, the education, universities, investing in more space down there, and also a light lot just north of your house. What do you see the state being able to do, if anything, for those areas?
We've had great conversations between our administration and Mayor Langfeld's administration to make sure that we're making the right investments. I mean, one of the reasons that you see a bipartisan group standing here is because I think we've been successful at addressing, as we go, the things that Springfield needs. There's still more to do, there's no doubt about it, but we, like I said, we want to make sure we're within the budget, we're within the capital plan, but I'm open to those ideas, and indeed, something needs to happen on the Y block, so that's, yeah.
What do you want to see after?
Listen, I'm not an architect, I'm not a city planner, and so, open to the conversation we've been having for, more than a year, certainly, to try to figure out what the right thing is to do on that block.
DCFS, the Republicans are downstairs talking about an audit of DCFS. We heard some grisly details in the death of Navin Jones. There have been other child deaths recently.
Yeah.
Do you have confidence? I mean, there are advocates saying it's in the worst shape in 3 decades. Do you have confidence in Mark Smith at this point?
Look, I want to start by saying that it's extraordinarily important. It's an important function of government. It's important to me personally that we take care of our most vulnerable children. It is a challenge when, for years, that agency had been neglected and underfunded. The very people who are holding a press conference downstairs are some of the people who voted with Bruce Rauner to underfund that agency, indeed to provide no budget at all for that agency. As a result of that, what I was left with, what the current General Assembly was left with, was a lot of rebuilding that needed to take place, and it's not something that you can snap your fingers and have happen overnight. And so we've been steadily investing. You saw in my first year in office, I proposed an increase in funding and hiring and providing services for people associated with DCFS to make sure that we're improving the service that's being provided and caring for those children. We also had a pandemic. I want to remind everybody that during the pandemic, there were an increased number of children who came in contact with DCFS. So that's all in the challenges that exist today. We're continuing to address those challenges. Progress has been made, but also tragedies have occurred. Unfortunately, these tragedies are all too often happening. I mean, I don't know what to tell you except that it's there. You can't look at these situations, put aside the end result, the starting point for these children, where the situations of their families that they start with are incredibly challenging, and they're moving, and I'm distraught by the situations of quite a number of the people that end up in the care of DCFS. So we're going to continue to work at this. We're going to make the investments that are necessary. The director is, like me, also deeply concerned about the conditions for these children and making sure that we're doing everything that we can with the budgets that we have, with the time that we have, to do it as quickly as possible to bring back beds for these kids to make sure that they're getting the services they need. So,
Governor, over the last few days, the Democrats have proposed a lot of crime legislation that's law enforcement centric. You've obviously touted looking at alternative, holistic ways to fight crime, through violence prevention groups. Do you think the legislation in the last few days is casting the right balance that suits you in terms of your position?
Well, nobody has proposed, at least not that I've seen, getting rid of the investments that I've proposed in those medium-term and long-term solutions. Investing in communities, investing in violence interruption programs, investing in youth summer job programs, and so on. I think what's being proposed now, you're seeing, are additions to that to make sure that, for example, that we have enough money for police cameras, right, for body cameras, to make sure that we're providing the resources that police need. And in every budget that I've proposed, including this one, we've increased the number of state police because we started out in a terrible position. When I got into office, the state police had lost hundreds of troopers, and we needed to rebuild it, and we have been doing that. And indeed, the largest classes of new cadets are built into my current budget. So there's an awful lot that's being proposed over the last couple of days that I think are good additions to what we've already done. Dave, who's clearly the loudest, yeah.
Renovating the Armory versus blowing it to Kingdom Come and starting over with something else. Why one and not the other?
Well, I mean, this is a historic building. I mean, this is an important building to the state, to the Capitol complex. I mean, I'm glad that we're preserving it and restoring it, and I think that the experiences that you heard some of the people standing at this podium moments earlier have had is just more evidence of why we need to preserve that building. Thank you.